our responses to and our recovery from that took place have been much smoother than they could have been. The state has recognized this, and they have awarded Mr. Bynum this award that I would like to read now. If I could get him to come forward, Perry. I'll just read this. I'm certainly not a public speaker, but I'll do the best I can. The Emergency Management Association of Texas presents to Perry Bynum of Haltom City the Excellence in Emergency Management Award for molding the office into an effective emergency management organization able to successfully manage 3 disaster declarations, including 1 presidential disaster declaration. This is a statewide organization, and Perry was the one out of the whole state that received this. So I think we can all be extremely proud of the job that he did, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thank you. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to say just a few things. You know me, I don't mind to talk. I'll make it short and sweet, though. I look on this as an extension of Haltom City. It's not Perry Bynum; it's Haltom City in general. We had a very trying 2007, but with y'all's leadership, leadership of our manager, leadership of our chiefs, our assistant city manager, I think the city's done a pretty good job. And I just want to share this with the entire city, with council, with staff. And it's not the Perry Bynum Award; it's the Haltom City Award, and it took all of us to do the job. And with that, I just say thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. My beautiful wife for 26 years, Lisa. And my daughter of 19 years, Lacey. Thank you for keeping me out of trouble, Tom. Y'all have a good night. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Account and acknowledges what other people are bringing to the table, and you did that very well. Thank you, sir. You got another one now?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We just found out the audio is being heard by the residents over the TV station, even though we're not hearing it in the chambers.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
We should turn on the mics and stuff. It's something up there.
So this may or may not help, having my microphone on.
Probably will not.
Okay.
Like steering a boat with no motor.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. As we set sail, the consent agenda is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted by the council with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Approval of the consent agenda authorizes the city manager to implement each item in accordance with the staff or board recommendations. Consent agenda tonight consists of items 1 through 7. Ms. Reese.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agendas 1 through 7 as presented.
Mr. Sutton.
That's for a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items consisting of items 1 through 7. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. That is unanimous. Next on the agenda is item 8, flooding and erosion issues, and City Manager Tom Muir will bring us up to date on those.
As is usually the case, I'll start off with the Skyline Banner area. On December 18th, the hearings board, which in a lot of communities is like a substandard building board, they determined that the remaining 6 properties that hadn't had anything done, they did condemn them. And again, that was on December 18th. There were only 6 remaining. They've got 30 days to deal with their properties as far as getting those buildings off their properties. So after January 17th, then either we could start writing tickets, or we could do a various number of things. The staff is going to be poised, ready to go in there and deal with those 6 remaining properties. And then it'll be any other debris that's going to be down there. It's going to be our intention that the association is going to be responsible for that, managing that debris. So then the next step after that will be following through on the grants that Mr. Bynum has applied for, and hopefully that we'll be able to start purchasing some of those properties sometime during the summer. With that, that's all I've got on the Skyline Banner area. Is there any questions or comments before I move on to the Big Fossil Creek erosion? Last council meeting right before the holidays, this council authorized me to execute a contract with an engineer to deal with the erosion issues that are up on Big Fossil Creek as it directly relates to Fenway Court, Bridgeport Court, and Fall Creek Court. The issues have been much in the media because of a lot of erosion from the rains from last summer. The council decided to retain an engineering firm to deal with the erosion control because of the possible infrastructure damage that the city's infrastructure could be faced if we don't do anything. So that's what we're looking at doing. I did execute that contract shortly after the new year. There were some issues we had to work out with the engineer, but in the meantime, we also did execute right of entry agreements with all the property owners except one, and we are still working on that one. But as far as all the resident owners that are up there, we've executed all the agreements necessary with that. The surveying is complete. The geotech is almost there. I'll be meeting with the engineer tomorrow to go over some of his initial findings. The staff will be meeting with him again on a larger basis next week. I do need to set up a meeting with the engineer and the homeowner, the property owners. That's something I have not done yet, but that will be coming very, very soon. I was hoping to have had it done by now, but the agreements, mainly the engineer's agreement, took a little bit longer to deal with than what I thought. But we will get the homeowners together so they are better informed of what's going on with that. But we are hopeful we might be able to start something in early spring. Maybe hopefully beat some of the rains that might come in there to at least start some things down there. But we're still hopeful for that. So do not want to get. I'm cautiously optimistic about that. I've disappointed so many people with so many things in regarding this thing, but we are working very hard and very feverishly in trying to not have any more issues up there, especially before the spring rains hit. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments regarding that. Okay. I'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with some more news.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. Next on the agenda is the Visitors Citizens Forum. This time is set aside for any person having business before the council that is not scheduled on the agenda to speak to the council. All comments must be directed toward the presiding officer rather than an individual council member or staff. Each speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter listed on the speaker's request form and must refrain from personal attacks toward any individual. Council cannot discuss, or debate any issue brought forth at this time, nor can any formal action be taken, as it is not a posted agenda item in accordance with the open meetings law. Up first is, first speaker is Mr. John Williams, and Mr. Williams wants to talk about the police chief and his department. John?
Mayor and Council, my name is John Williams. I reside in 8100 block at Timber Creek Fall, somewhere. I don't know. It's a new street. Reason I came tonight, I appreciate y'all allowing me to speak to you. I usually don't say anything unless somebody's doing something good or bad. If they're doing bad, I usually point it out. If they're doing good, I usually point it out. Yesterday afternoon, the Cowboys weren't doing too good. And about midway through first quarter, I get a phone call from a friend of mine, Ronnie Hack, and he informs me that the City of Haltom City Police Department is looking for me. First thing I thought about was my water bill, and it wasn't that. Someone had been reported as a suspicious person walking around down 28th Street. 2 officers went out on the scene. They finally got a hold of me. I met them there. Officer Whitley and Officer Fowler. Officer Whitley drove by and surveyed the area and could not find anybody walking around at the time. Somebody was supposed to be carrying something like a propane bottle. Instead of just riding it off and going on down the road, he parked his squad car 2 buildings to the east of mine, got out, walked around the buildings there. Came back on my property, walked around to the back of the building, and come up on about a 30-year-old man with a 16-foot piece of copper pipe in his hand, a 5-gallon bucket, and a hacksaw. Upon finding him, then he had dispatch get a hold of me, and then I met him down there to see whether or not I knew the person, if they were supposed to be there or not. Well, come to find out, the boy was involved in drugs and had told the officers that he'd come down there to help kind of clean up places. And I think he meant clean up places by cleaning them out instead of cleaning them up. So with the help of these 2 officers, Officer Fowler and Officer Whitley, and going on beyond just to drive by and checking your property out, getting out and walking around, they were able to arrest the suspect. And it's my information that I received today that they've taken him to the county, and the county is going to pursue him. So I just wanted to compliment you on your police department and your chief and the department they have. And fooled you. I wasn't going to do anything bad, and I did not cut the wires to the mic. And we did not have this problem when he was in Bedford.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Sure, you want to bring your request form up? Oh, Mr. Merrill, that's you. Okay. Well, you're next.
I am?
Yeah, come on up. And this is Stephen Merrill, and he wants to talk about recycling.
How long do I get? They tell me I'm
6
cutting
minutes.
half.
Yeah.
Oh, 6 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I keep track of it.
Professional, yeah.
All right. Y'all may or may not like to hear this is a gripe, but let's see how it goes. I've been studying about recycling. After hearing what I have to say about recycling, the audience may be motivated to do something about it. Recycling is not profitable and is done at the expense of the masses. It is a volatile commodity, is only supported by a minority of citizens in Haltom City and abroad, and not all materials designated for recycling are being recycled. Recycling is not profitable for paper, glass, and plastic. Recycled paper, when in demand, is met at paper plants. Products not used generally are buried in landfills anyway. Recycled glass can be used in streets, but there's a limitation that the streets have a 40-mile-an-hour maximum on the streets, and only 20% of the asphalt can have that combined with it. It also has a limitation where they have to wait longer for it to set before they can roll it. 24 hours approximately, according to what I've read. Plastic is virtually unrecyclable, and the main reason for that is due in part to contamination and also to different grades of plastic. Because of supply and demand. What is profitable today is unprofitable tomorrow. Aluminum, steel, and cardboard are the most profitable to recycle. And Haltom City, according to what I know, mainly recycles cardboard and newspaper, although there may be other items I'm not aware of. The problem with recycling, as everybody purports, is education, and the problem with education is stated real well, although it wasn't addressed specifically, by a guy named Jerry Taylor of Natural Resources Studies of the Cato Institute, a Washington think tank. He says if you ask people if they recycle, you're basically asking them if they care about the earth or if they like animals. They're going to say sure. Everybody's going to say sure. Nobody's going to say, because they don't want to sound like Christians, was the rest of his comment. There is no shortage of landfills. Landfills, approximately 2,000 of them have been strapped with regulations that are closing them, causing a shortage of landfills. This is due to national regulations from the promoters of recycling, the EPA. Landfills, paper mills, and composting plants. Most people don't want landfills or staging areas near their homes, mainly attributed to smell, and hence the phrase, not in my backyard. When a recycling business has no demand for the recyclables, there's no place to put them. They're going to be buried or incinerated. There are few landfills or fuel energy incinerators that are cited under new regulations because of public outcry. By a man-made shortage caused from EPA closings of current landfills, their numbers have been reduced substantially. It is estimated that fills would meet the needs of America for years to come. The fills that would meet the needs of America for years to come would only generate the equivalent of a 20 square mile, 100-yard high landfill. The so-called crisis has been grossly overstated. Representative government. The government is supposed to be for the people. The minority does not represent the majority at all. Our government is of the people, meaning the majority, even the Congress and Senate, have to have a two-thirds majority to change the government. That check and balance prevents usurpation of minority factions. The original intent of clearly established law does not protect minority factions. Fortunately for unforeseen injustices, we can amend, which means to make more right, the laws, codes, ordinances, or other not herein enumerated that are against the masses. Government is for the people, and when the government takes from the people by direct taxation without representation of the people themselves, it is stealing. If you can justify legalized stealing of anything, then anything can go, and under that dangerous precedent, you can justify secret combinations of anarchy repugnant to freedom. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the Council to reevaluate their current position on recycling by putting the issue back on the agenda for the next Council meeting. I'm not going to leave you without remedy. In summary and in conclusion, from the above matters, it's obvious that goods and services are not guaranteed as recyclables. This is against the original intended purpose of the government and of the will of the people. The vendors at any time in their discretion can dump recyclables in landfills due to loss of market share, leveraged buyouts, profit-taking, monopolizing the market, causing synthetic inflation, downsizing, layoffs, not to mention needing upgrades for an ailing fleet, broken down trucks, which we're going to face that in a few years if this continues, manufacturing problems, and a host of unforeseen events that are the premise for future burdensome taxation. In conclusion, the question of recycling is not whether to recycle, but would anybody be willing to pay for goods or services that would not perform the intended use of the contract? Therefore, I ask that it be resolved that the recycling direct tax be repealed in favor of a voluntary tax, allowing the minority who wish to be environmentally happy show forth their true convictions by taking upon themselves the full burdens of their beliefs, actually a form of religion. Allowing those who do not care to participate in recycling their freedom of conscience and choice not to pay for others' privileges of recycling, and by hence doing so, it would not short the people that want us to recycle, the garbage people, and your contractual obligations to them to continue the contract because they would still be paid. And that's what I have to say about this. And thank you very much.
And
Did I
have
make
you got
6 minutes?
Yeah, have you got a copy of those in case we didn't get, I don't know, did we get this recorded?
Mr. Mayor, you're welcome to a copy of any of
Yeah,
this, but
yeah.
I'm not prepared at this time to give you a copy.
Okay,
I
all
was
right.
putting this together at the last minute, and can I bring it to you later?
Well, that's fine, or
and,
just bring it up to the staff,
does,
that's at your convenience,
Do
yeah.
you need one for each councilman, or?
Well, we can make copies, yeah, we can make copies of that.
I'll
And-
tell you
and,
what, you can have mine.
Would you tell us what your address is? I forgot to ask you that, that's.
It's
part of
on the
it.
form.
2013 Glen Haven?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Would you like my copy?
No, no,
Okay.
you just when you get a chance.
Thank you for your time, and thank you, everybody, for your consideration. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a matter to bring up? Lori? Go ahead and give your name and address, please. And you're going
Lori
to talk about
Fielder.
pit bull legislation?
Yes, sir. I'm Lori Fielder, 3925 Earl, and thank you for allowing me to come again tonight, Mayor and City Council members. And I'm here to do a follow-up from December 10th that I was here last, and it has to do with pit bull legislation, and I'm just following up to see if anything has been considered, or at least reiterate the things that I proposed. If I could just go down to each one, and then if you need another copy of it, or if I could find out what the best way to follow up on this, you know.
You do understand we can't discuss things here.
Okay.
At this one. I mean, you can ask the question, but we can't, we can't discuss it here, so,
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
okay, all right.
I just kind of wanted to say each one out loud, if that's okay. And just kind of go down the line, and then resubmit a copy if I need to, or then I'll ask the question afterwards. How do I go about doing it? Any pit bull or pit bull mix with predominant pit bull characteristics is to be considered a dangerous animal, whether or not the dog has exhibited any previous signs of aggressive behavior. All dangerous animals must be registered with Animal Services within 30 days of being brought into the city, or within 30 days of birth. A registration fee would be required of at least $20 per animal. A fine could be imposed for failure to comply. I'd suggest at least $200 for each offense. All registered dangerous animals must be tagged with a permanent ID chip that records its history and identifies its owner. Breeding of dangerous animals within the city limits should be prohibited in residential areas. All owners of registered dangerous animals must provide proof from a vet that each animal has been neutered within 6 months of birth, or within 2 months of acquiring an adult animal. Exceptions could be granted for licensed breeding facilities. Fines could be imposed for any failure to comply. Owners must be required to have fencing capable of containing a fully grown pit bull. This would include a barrier at least 5 feet in height and extending at least 18 inches below ground level to prevent a dog from digging out. Gates must be securely locked at all times. Areas must be clearly marked that a dangerous animal is kept there. Failure to comply would result in fines and the animal's removal by Animal Services. Owners must carry at least $100,000 of liability insurance in the event their dog escapes and causes injury to another person or domestic pet. Failure to submit proof of liability coverage would result in a fine and the animal's removal by Animal Services. Owners may keep a maximum of 2 of any animal classified as dangerous. The city should notify the property owner of any adjacent property that a neighbor has a dangerous animal on their premises. I would prefer that said property owners must approve the keeping of dangerous animals on a adjacent property, but may be unrealistic. Fines should be imposed for any registered dangerous dog found running loose outside their designated area. I believe these ideas would serve to protect the public as well as provide a revenue stream to the city without requiring excessive additional city resources to implement. It may also entice potential pit bull owners to perhaps choose another breed as a family pet. So I just kind of wanted to go through it all and ask all of you what is the best way for me to follow up on this sort of thing. should I go directly to the animal department? Or?
Wayne, you want to kind of guide us in how we can respond here? If at all.
It's not on. I think the best response to that is to contact the city manager's office and give them the information, and they will coordinate with the city council to see what action, if any, they want to take.
Okay.
It would be appropriate for, someone is going to have to sponsor putting it on the agenda. How does it get on the agenda?
A council member will have to request it.
Like how would it? I don't want.
Either the city manager or council person has to put it in there. So, I think that's realistically probably your first hurdle is getting someone up here to sponsor that.
Let me interject here. If you can give me a copy of what you've got there, me and staff will go over it, and we'll work with you and communicate with you as far as what we think to do. Obviously, doing some of these things she's talking about, the ability to enforce it is
I understand.
a huge challenge, and whether it can even legally be done in Texas is still debatable. But let's take a look at it and see what we can do. It is a issue that is not just here; it's in a lot of places. And personally, I don't really object to anything you listed there. But personally, I'm not sure we're going to do it. But, if you can give me a list of that, then fine.
I'll just comment. Several of the things that have been suggested here will take statutory amendment to be able to enforce on a citywide basis. But those are issues that can be looked at by the council if you want to. We are handcuffed by state law as to what we can do and regulate with dangerous dogs.
I understand.
And that may be something you may want to take up with your state representative.
I've also considered maybe doing a neighborhood watch thing too, just if, depending on what kind of.
You live here, right? You live in town, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Your representative is going to be Mr. Hancock. You may want to talk to him or somebody in his office probably, know about the issues there, so that he can be better positioned for when the legislature comes back into session about a year from now.
Okay.
I know that's a year is not what you're looking for, but getting anything statutory is the quickest it's going to be is next year.
But I could still put bugs in yours, huh?
Jane Nelson's an option also. She's your senator, but your representative is Mr. Hancock, either one or both. Probably be better to talk to both. And don't be alarmed if you end up talking to their reps. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So, I would suggest you do that.
Okay.
But, or email me a copy of that or give it to me or however you want to do it.
Okay. I'll email you. I've corresponded with a lot of you, so. Okay. Thank you very much.
Dory. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to speak at the Visitor Citizens Forum tonight? Please identify yourself. Share your
Bob Watkins, 6140 Blue Spruce Circle. I'm usually not talking to y'all, despite the fact that you want me to. I'm usually talking to the audience, but tonight I want to talk to you again about this podium being sitting here. We've got another presentation here with somebody facing here and nobody, the people out there can't see. And with the microphones off, it's really hard to hear what's happening. And we went for a long time with it over there, and I think that'd be a good spot for it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up. Please give us your name and address.
My name's Charles Witt, address 2317 Astor, Fort Worth, Texas. I'd just like to revisit this issue this young lady brought up with the pit bulls. I realize y'all probably don't anticipate a problem here, but just to tell you my experience with this, I've got some property in Haltom City my granddaughter was living in, some rental property, and I was literally chased by the neighbor pit bull on my riding lawnmower. I had to call Haltom City Animal Control while I was on my lawnmower with my legs in the air. And they came out, and of course the dog was gone by the time they got there. And this has happened at least 3 times, and you can check the reports. This neighboring pit can clear a 4-foot fence just like that. So I'm faced with constructing a 6-foot barrier fence, at least temporary, on my property just to protect myself from liabilities and you too from personal liabilities that I may come back on with y'all if somebody gets hurt on my property or if I get hurt, because pit bulls are notorious for gnawing your leg off if they get a chance. So I think y'all ought to take that, a little bit more seriously and look at either getting the state involved to help you all with this, because eventually there will be an incident where somebody gets hurt and it could be loss of life or limb. And in the meantime, I think I'd increase my liability risk insurance to cover that sort of stuff, if you haven't already thought about that. But, I'm not being disgruntled about it. I'm just telling you the facts. And it kind of seems like Haltom City is beginning to be the pit capital of Tarrant County. There seems to be more here than other places. But it is a problem. It is a problem. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witt. All right. Anyone else want to speak on the Visitor Citizens Forum? Seeing none, I'll close the forum and move on to the next item. Item 9, resignation of board members. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott Garrett of the DBA has made a statement he'd like to resign, needs to resign, and he'd like to make it effective January 31st this year.
All right. Any discussion? Please register your vote. That is unanimously approved. Any other resignations? Okay, how about appointments or reappointments? Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to appoint alternate Terry Fletcher to the P&Z to fill my vacancy.
All right. Any discussion? Please register your vote. That is unanimous. Any other appointments or reappointments? All right. Item 11 is attendance requirements. We have no absences tonight. The next, all we have left is executive session. So we will now. I tell you what. Do you guys need a little break here, or you want to just go on into 5 minutes? Is 8 o'clock all right? Okay, we'll adjourn into executive session at 8 o'clock under as authorized by Section 551-071 and -0.072. Oh, 7 p.m. We have no action to take as a result of the executive session. This meeting is adjourned.